You can see we're on factory bump stop in the back. That's full up travel. And check this out. The idler arm hits the control arm on full bump. Drop down like this. So let's see how it goes here. Still have weight on it, but it's getting less weight right there. You can really see it start bending down. And right there we have weight off. Now this is without a sway bar in, because sway bar just kills any articulation off-road and it will bind up early. So here we have the factory bump stop at ride height, and you can see just how much travel there is before the bump stop even starts to engage. So also check out the upper ball joint tie rod angle at full bump factory. Ball joint's maxed out. Keep in mind this would be fully loaded suspension, so this is when stuff tends to break more than when it's in full droop position, because you don't have nearly the amount of weight on it. Now you can see our bump stop in place at factory ride height like before, and you can see that the bump stop is just starting to make contact with the control arm. So you have the bump stop engaged through more of the suspension travel. This helps steering response, handling off-camber situations. You don't get nearly as tippy feeling. And this also protects the idler arm at full bump. And here we are at full bump. Our idler arm is safe. You can see that our upper ball joint and tie rod angles are much less extreme. And remember, this is under load, so they're much stronger to not be maxed out under load. And we've got our tire back on at essentially full compression. We're not making metal to metal contact, which we really don't want to be. Tire clearance, even while turning. The tire's no longer stuffed way up in the fender. Now my van does have a 1/2 inch lift on it, but you could see this is a 28 3/4 inch tire. It's a 39 50 15, but right now it's measuring 28 3/4. And you can see I could definitely take that 1/2 inch lift out and still clear the tire. Or I can run a 29 1/2 inch tire with a 1/2 inch lift and still clear at full bump. And factory bump stop with tire back on, and see we're way stuffed, and right there we start making contact with the fender here at the top. It's not a very sharp turn at all, and we start making contact right here, turning the other way. Now this is with a factory rim, so if you're running a rim that has more offset and you're out here another inch farther outboard, I mean, that tire is going to be shredded by that fender. So in real world testing, I used a moose test, which is basically swerving to miss an obstacle in the road. No sway bar, factory bump stops, 30 miles an hour, and the outside front tire really wanted to roll under, the rear end wanted to kick out on it, and it was really uncomfortable feeling. So with my bump stop in, no sway bar. Ran the test again, was able to do 40 miles an hour comfortably. And it got rid of all that rear end wanting to kick out and front tire really wanting to roll over. I mean, this thing really felt like it was going to tip over before, and just the bump stop set at the right height and engaging a little bit sooner made a world of difference. And along with all that is, since we're limiting the up travel, which is an excessive amount, it seems like, from the factory, we can run a larger tire at a lower lift, which means we can keep a lower center of gravity, which is going to help us both on and off-road, as well as providing more ground clearance on the low side when you're flexed out. These will work if you want to retain your factory sway bar. They'll take a little bit of the stress off the sway bar. The ends of the factory sway bars have a tendency to come apart because they're under quite a lot of stress. So this will help with that, help firm up the suspension even more than just the factory sway bar. They definitely make a difference if you're removing your front sway bar because you don't want it on for off-road, but you don't want it to handle poorly on the street. And these will work really best at factory to 3/4, maybe an inch max torsion bar lift. They'll still work for higher lifts after that, but the bump stop's just going to come into contact later, so you may not feel the handling difference that you would at a lower lift. They'll still give you the benefits off-road and the chance that your torsion bar would break, though. You can see the side-by-side comparison of the factory bump stop versus our bump stop. This is using a Dorman. It's a foam bump stop. I just found that it really works. It's a nice progressive rate to it. You know, some of you may say, why not use polyurethane? But polyurethane can be quite squeaky, and since we have that bump stop engaged earlier in the suspension movement, it would just be really noisy and get annoying quick. So I did try a cheap set of Chinese-made polyurethane, and as you can see, one didn't even make it off of the jack stands. The other one has a crack in it right there. You know, the originals were rubber. I experimented with the rubber. This one worked quite well. I don't think there's too much of an advantage over the foam, honestly. And this is just, you should be able to find that at a parts store pretty easily to replace it. You know, I mean, it's going to be a wear item being an active bump stop, but you know, they're relatively cheap, and if you replace them every couple of years, you know, it's one bolt, it's no big deal. If you're interested, I'm going to sell these in a pair. You get the mounting plate with the hard stop welded on, a pair of Dorman bump stops to go with them. It's pretty easy, one bolt install. Take your old ones out, bolt these in place. If you're interested in a set, hit me up on Instagram, Facebook. If you have any questions, let me know.